Have you ever had a situation that started out as a celebration but turned into something challenging, maybe even bad? What if it was perhaps a Christmas party that was all fun and games until your nephews were messing around in the basement, someone fell, and the next stop was an ER for stitches? Or maybe you've actually witnessed a fight in a public place, something that started out in a fun and exciting place but turned terrible in the blink of an eye. Maybe it was a presentation or a lecture where the presenter was passionate and excited about what they were speaking about, but the conversation from the crowd turns into an outright dispute about what was said. Just because something starts out as a party does not guarantee it's going to stay that way. This is what we have here in chapter 11 of Mark. The chapter, it starts as Jesus approaches Jerusalem to recognize the Passover, a time of true celebration. He instructs the disciples to find a colt that he can ride into the city, and we hear the story of Jesus riding in to shouts of Hosanna. It's a party. People are celebrating that the king, a new king, is coming. But the scene, it pretty quickly shifts. Jesus goes to a fig tree looking for fruit, but it's not actually the season for figs, and he makes a dramatic statement about the disciples and fruit, and he seems to be agitated, even though we're not sure why the fig tree, which wasn't in season, is the object of this frustration. Then Jesus goes on, he goes to the temple courts, which are the outer parts of the temple, and he finds people selling things like doves. It was very common, actually expected, for people to make long pilgrimages from all over the place to the temple, which was located in Jerusalem. And there were a lot of rules at the temple. Certain people could pray in one part. There was washing or purification rule for another part. And it was also common for people to offer animals for sacrifice. In some instances, it was thought that a certain animal was worth more of a sacrifice than others. Again, we don't have a ton of context in these short verses. Some have suggested that the money changers were bad people, out to make a buck on the back of those who didn't have any money to begin with. And we learn that Jesus overturns the tables. He says, is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers. It's kind of a dramatic scene. And soon after, we learn that this fig tree that was mentioned before, it withers, it dies. So we have to ask, what might Mark, the author, be telling us with these stories? A story that starts with a celebration and quickly moves toward anger and destruction. Maybe Jesus is asking his disciples, asking his followers to wonder, is it time for something new? This temple, this way of religious life, it worked for some, but is it time for something different? And now think about it in the context of our own lives. We all get into routines in our life, sometimes in our faith. And sometimes they're easy and comfortable, but they also close us off from greater things. We have blinders on like a horse, and we keep moving forward without seeing the possibilities or the people on the periphery. The temple was a symbol. It was a symbol of power. It was a symbol of authority. And Jesus, through all of his teaching, reminds us that God is not bound to one place inside a temple in a holy city. God's grace and forgiveness isn't just for people who do things a certain way or who have money to seek power and status. God's love is for all. And maybe when we encounter people who think that they're cut off from that, it is time for us to get angry and to change things. So as you dive into chapter 11, here are some things to ponder. When has anger been used for something good? And number 2, what would it mean for Jesus to turn the old into something new for you? Thanks so much for reading along with us today.